So first I have to apologize for all those people in Facebook land because my computer says it's 3:30 when it's really 4:30. And so the timing on the scheduling for this show was a little off. Oh well. Anyway, I'm Sean Palmer. That's Seth Kamens, who is furrowing his brow for some reason.
I just walked in the door about 6 seconds ago.
And you looked flushed as all could be. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Thanks.
You look like you're ready to take off for the golf course. You're all ready.
In theory, I'm ready to take off for the golf course.
I mean, you got a really good tan going.
Well, that's what happens when you play 6 hours of softball in 96-degree weather. And then clients yelling at you, why are you not working? I'm like, it's my goddamn company. I can do whatever the hell I want. For those of you who didn't know, yes, I run my own company.
You had a good time with the softball.
We did. We needed people to get to, we should have been, we did well. We should have done better, but we did perfectly fine.
Were you as good as the Boston Celtics?
No.
Okay. Were you as good as the Dallas Mavericks?
In this series or in general?
Well, you were Luka, right? I mean, you brought the team home.
I was probably more of a Dorian Finney-Smith. Can't hit.
Who's not even on the team, so congratulations.
There you go. Well, that's okay. Fair enough. In the prior year, a Dorian Finney-Smith.
That makes it even better.
Maybe a Josh Green.
There you go. Josh Green had a good game in the final game.
I played 4 games with no errors. I just can't hit. I just cannot hit a baseball or hit a softball.
Well, I believe he went 4 for 4 from 3. So I mean, he definitely showed up. Unlike Kyrie Irving, who did not show up at all, and is now the last 13 games in Boston Garden is a absolutely perfect 0-13. But we'll get to that in 27 minutes when Boston superfan Mark Rubin will be joining the show. And to be fair, both of us picked the Celtics to win the NBA title at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I had Denver in the finals. I don't remember who you had in the finals. It was probably Denver if I had to guess.
I would think so.
And I had Boston versus Dallas in the finals, and I had Boston winning at the beginning of the playoffs. So, I mean.
I don't remember who. I didn't have Dallas.
No, you did not have Dallas.
I didn't have Dallas.
You had Denver. You had Denver.
Okay.
So I had Dallas. So, look, I picked the right final. I picked the winner. I will call that a win.
I did pick Boston in 5 on last week's show. I did that. I know I did.
Especially in light of the fact that next week we're going to have our NBA draft preview, and we will probably get 4 right.
I have never been less excited about a draft.
You know, I've been doing a lot of research in the draft, and I'm hoping, beyond hope, that there are more trades in this draft than any other. Is
this because you want the Knicks to trade their 2 first-round picks?
No, I don't want I want them to trade their first round picks, but I have no clue who I would want for them. I think I just want, and obviously this will be next week, but it seems to me from all the research that I've done is obviously there is no number 1 stud, right? There's none. So you have tiers, and the tiers have never been so close and with so many players that I truly believe that having the 10th pick is no different than having the 20th pick, which is no different than having maybe the 24th pick. And so you're going to have buckets of players, and it really depends on who a team likes more than the status quo, right? Normally we can say these are the top 10 players. They will go in the top 10 and in some order of that top 10. I'm not sure that's the case. You may have a guy that jumps like Reed Shepherd to 3. You may have Donovan Clingan go number 2. I mean, when Donovan Clingan wasn't even a first-round pick before the NCAA tournament. So, I mean, you have different strokes for different folks, and we'll see what happens next week. Last week, we talked about Jerry West. This week, we talked about Willie Mays. I am really tired.
And the week before, we talked about Bill Walton.
I'm really tired of this. Seth, I know it's the age in which we are. I get it. But, man, that hit me last night. Hit me more than Jerry West. And granted, Willie Mays is 93 years old. I mean, Willie Mays lived a full and complete life.
Yes, but as great as Jerry West was not to basketball what Willie Mays was to baseball.
Or to black people. Just in general. No, I'm saying just in general,
obviously.
Right? Well, I guess what I mean is he wasn't the first star. Like Jackie Robinson was the start of that.
Jackie Robinson was a star.
No, Jackie Robinson wasn't a star like Willie Mays was a star.
No, Jackie Robinson is not a top 10 all-time player.
He's not even a top 50 all-time player.
That one's a little bit closer, but yeah.
Willie Mays, you of the small Hall of Fame, if you are putting 10 players in a Hall of Fame in baseball, Willie Mays is in there without any doubt in the world.
If you put together your all-time greatest outfield, there is which is 3 people.
It's Mays, Aaron, and Ruth. Done.
I don't know if it would be Aaron. It would be Mays, Ruth, Aaron, Williams.
Nope.
Cobb.
Nope. Got to put defense in there somewhere, and Aaron is a better defender than all of them.
Yes, but Williams is the best hitter of all of them, and Cobb had the highest average of all time. Again, I'm not arguing
except for Josh Gibson now.
Until 2 weeks ago.
Look,
I'm not arguing. Look, I think you can make the Aaron argument, but the 2 unanimous picks are Mays and Ruth.
Yep. And by the way, if it's not Aaron, I'd put Clemente up against both of them. I put Clemente up against any of them. Remember, Clemente died at 37. He didn't even get to play until he was 40.
Yeah, but
he finishes with 3,000 hits.
3,000 hits. I remember that.
He is the second best defender of all time in the outfield with the best arm.
Who do you have as the best defender, Mays?
The guy that just died. Willie Mays was the best hitter in baseball, the best fielder in baseball, the best runner in baseball, the best. He was the best. It is absurd that he only won 2 MVPs. It's absurd.
And did he only win 1 title?
Yes.
1954.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
And that was early in his career.
Yeah, he was like 23 at that point because that was the team that beat Cleveland. And Cleveland had Lemon and
Al Rosen.
Wynn and Bob Feller and Bob Garcia, I believe. Mike Garcia, I think.
And Al Rosen. Yep. And Lou Boudreau.
Al Rosen was the third baseman.
And Lou Boudreau. Yep.
But I actually read, if you remember years ago when Joe Pazansky wrote for The Athletic, he did his 100 greatest baseball players of all time.
He was number 1.
And he was number 1. I had never seen a list that had him at number 1, but there's no baseball writer I respect more than him. But I don't think I ever saw Mays lower than 3rd or 4th to be on anybody's list.
So just numbers, right? 660 home runs, 2,068 runs, 1,900 RBIs, 3,293 hits, an on-base percentage of 384 with a slugging percentage of 557, and an OPS of 940. That's a career. That's not a 1 year. That 940 gets you an MVP most years. That's his career. His OPS plus, which is 100, is an average player, is 155. His WAR is 156.
What's the average WAR of a Hall of Famer?
The average WAR of a Hall of Famer. Hold on, it's on Baseball Reference. Hold on. So the average WAR of a Hall of Famer is for a center fielder is 71. The average peak of a Hall of Fame. Now, granted, there are some great Hall of Famers and some not great Hall of Famers, right? The average center fielder is 44.7. That's a 7-year peak.
The 7-year peak, and his was 74.
Right.
His numbers are double the average of your average Hall of Famer. 24 All-Star games.
Nobody plays 24 seasons.
That is nuts.
And that's when the All-Star game mattered. Now, remember, in some cases, he played 2 in a year, by the way. There were 2 All-Star games in a year several times.
I don't think I knew that, Act. I don't think I
He
knew
only
that.
played 23 seasons, so he made 24 All-Star games. Guess what?
That was a little confusing to me, to be fair, but I actually never knew they had 2 All-Star games.
Yeah, they had 2 All-Star games a couple of years. Actually, he didn't make an All-Star team. So at age 17, he was in the Negro Leagues. He didn't make an All-Star team for his first 2 years. Then he was an All-Star until he didn't make the All-Star team until he was 23.
And then he made it every year.
And he made it every year until he's 41. And then he made it again. No, he made it at 41. Sorry, he made it every year until he was 42. There is, I hate to say this, there's no comparison.
Not really.
Top to bottom, the best player in Major League Baseball history that played against everybody. Like, you put Ruth in that category and you say, okay, Ruth didn't play against the Negro Leagues, right?
Yeah.
You could put Josh Gibson in that category and you say he didn't play against white players. Like, you can put all those. Willie Mays came about at the exact right time. At 22, at 20 years old, he made his major league debut after playing 3 years in the Negro Leagues. Like, it was perfectly timed for him to come.
I was reading something last night. I forget. I don't remember if it was The Athletic or not, where he got pulled up by the Giants in 1951. And they were as a rookie when they were making their run, from 10.5 back.
Yep.
And he told Leo DeRocher, who's the Hall of Fame manager for the Giants, that he wasn't sure if he could hit the curveball.
Yep.
And Leo goes, "What? First of all, I'm bringing you up for your fielding. Second of all, what are you hitting?" He goes, 477. He goes, "Shut the hell up and get up here."
Now, here's the other thing. So the year after, in 1954, at age 23, Willie Mays hit 41 homers and 110 RBIs. In 1952, he played 34 games. In 1953, he did not play at all. So let's extrapolate that out, right? So another 40 home runs at age 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And probably another 30 home runs at age 21. So another 70 home runs. Seth, he breaks Babe Ruth's record.
Yes.
Before Hank Aaron even has before he even has a chance. And those are, in my opinion, those are numbers that he could have definitely done more. Those were age 21 and 22. Like, that is Mike Trout, Triple Crown numbers. He won the MVP the year he came back from the service, where he went 41 homers, 110 RBIs with a 345 average, and an OPS of 1.087. OPS plus of 175. He was 3/4 of a better player so he was 1 plus 3/4 of a player. I don't know how. He's one of the few guys I wish I had seen, like really seen, rather than just watch the highlights, because you have read just as much as I have. But when he came to the Mets, the conversation with Tom Seaver, he walked in with Tom Seaver. Now, Tom Seaver is, in 1972, Tom Seaver is a 3-time Cy Young Award winner.
He is the best pitcher in baseball. Him and Steve Carlton are the 2 best pitchers in baseball.
Certainly the best right-handed pitcher in baseball, and maybe the best pitcher in baseball at that point, right? He goes up to Tom Seaver. And obviously, I did not hear this from either Tom Seaver or Willie Mays. I'm hearing this.
Well, of course not. They're both dead.
Well, but I could have had a conversation with either one of them. I'm just saying this.
I think you would have told me that before.
This is a secondhand story where he goes up to Tom Seaver and goes, "Look, just look back at me and I'll tell you what pitches to pitch, and then I'll move around based on the pitches that you pitch in the outfield because I know where these guys are going to hit it. Okay, so that's Willie Mays at age 42 saying that to the best pitcher in baseball. And Tom Seaver going, okay.
And we talk about how salaries escalate. Mike Trout made more in 2 weeks than Willie Mays made in his baseball career.
Yeah,
that's salary alone.
Yes.
I know. No, I get it. Like, this is how it was. But it is amazing to see the most he ever made was $165,000 in a year.
Which is probably still more than the president made that year.
But he probably had a better year.
Thank you, Babe Ruth. That's basically that's what I'm saying.
For those of you who don't know the reference, Babe Ruth made that comment about either Herbert Hoover or Calvin Coolidge. I think
Herbert Hoover, $80,000.
And he goes, you made more than the president. He goes, I had a better year. Which probably did.
I don't know how. In 23 seasons, by the way, he made $1.8 million. I mean,
nah, but I'm looking at Baseball Reference too. But look at 1972. There's no number there. So that's why I said he probably
made 100. He made 165 from the Giants.
Oh, I didn't see that they had it. They split it between San Francisco and the Mets.
Made $1.8 million. Now, the unfortunate part is both he and Mickey Mantle were suspended from baseball. If you remember why.
Is it a gambling? I don't remember.
So Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays, I believe it was in the early 80s, associated themselves with an Atlantic City casino.
That's what I thought.
And Bowie Kuhn said, we don't tolerate gambling in baseball, and suspended them both. And to be fair, Mickey Mantle was an asshole. And
at that point, yeah.
And everybody knew it. And I think Willie Mays just drifted into the abyss because of that. You can't. It's hard to think that you suspend Willie Mays, who never had a bad thing to say about anybody, and you didn't give him an option to get out of the way, right? But Bowie Kuhn was Bowie Kuhn, a racist bigot,
right. And I think, as you said, Bowie Kuhn didn't have much use for Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays, and the rest of the world didn't have much use for Bowie Kuhn right after that.
Yep. And then Peter Ueberroth came in 1984 and reinstated both of them.
Yeah.
Willie Mays was supposed to be honored tomorrow night in Mobile, Alabama. Not Mobile, Birmingham, where they're playing the Negro game. They're playing a Negro.
I would think it would be Birmingham. The Birmingham Stallions, I would think. Hold
on. They're playing, Birmingham Black Barons. Yep, June 20th at Rickwood Field. And he had stated a couple of days ago he wasn't going to be able to be in attendance anyway. I don't know. I haven't watched a baseball game that doesn't involve the Mets all year. I will watch tomorrow's game. That game, it's on ESPN. He was supposed to be honored at the Negro League tribute game, and now that game takes on new meaning, right? I mean, it's where he played when he was 17. He always said that was his favorite place to play. The other thing about Willie Mays is, remember, he's one of the few that started in New York and moved to California, right? And stayed
until he moved back to
New York, which was unfortunate because the people in New York, the last memory that they have of Willie Mays, if you've seen the video in 1970,
I have.
It's not of Willie Mays. It's of a 42-year-old Willie Mays. There was no DH back then, and he played center field. And 42 years old, show me a 42-year-old center fielder. Those don't exist. Certainly not yet. Look, I'm trying to think. I was trying to think today who the next guy, and granted, it'll always be a surprise, but who's the next guy that's going to hit me like this? Seaver hit me like this. Mays hit me like this. Koufax will hit me like this. Like those.
Who do I think it's going to be?
No, who is the like? There are certain guys that hit. Well, Jerry West didn't hit me like this. It didn't. It hit me, but it didn't hit me like this. Koufax will hit me like this, 100%. There are guys that you grew up where you were like, "This is who." They are the Hank Aaron hit me like this, right? These are the guys that you put on a pedestal.
Because when we were growing up, we, myself included, even though I was never, I'm not a massive baseball fan at this point. You studied baseball history,
yeah,
and you knew Aaron had 714, and Mays had 660, and Robinson had 586. Yeah. And Mela, you knew that list.
511. Yeah.
I was going to say 512. McCovey, I think, had 512. I mean, you know, Kilbrew, like you knew those people. Yep. Nobody really knew basketball statistics from the 60s and 70s.
That's true.
And it was a basketball. Remember when we were really growing up in the 80s, basketball wasn't huge.
Right. Baseball was America's pastime. Baseball was America's pastime.
And you knew, basketball got bigger with Magic and Michael and Larry. You didn't follow basketball history in the 70s. It wasn't big. Nobody remembers the 1975 Golden State Warriors or the 78 Washington Bullets. You don't, unless you're a fan of those teams.
Sure.
And the baseball, you knew the Yankees with Mantle versus the Dodgers with Robinson and Campanella versus the Giants with Mays and McCovey. And you knew this. Everyone who was a sports fan knew this.
Baseball is,
and that's why the impact is so big. Is not that look, Mays retired 3 years before we were born.
Yep.
But we all knew Mays. We all knew the legends. We all saw the catch in the '54 World Series against Vic Wertz. Possibly the greatest defensive play of all time from an outfielder.
Yeah.
This is what you knew. This is what your parents talked to you about when they talk sports with you. I don't know if your dad did with you. We've never had that real discussion, but we know my father did with me. And it was Mays and Mantle and Snyder. You know, who was and
Willie, Mickey, and the Duke, right?
Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. And
there were songs written about these guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talk about that with Paul Simon when he sings with Mrs. Robinson, and he talks about, Mickey Mantle turns to Paul Simon during, I think, a show. It says, why was it about Joe DiMaggio? I was more your generation. And Simon remembered Joe DiMaggio when he was like 8 years old. And he lied to Mantle and just said that the syllables didn't work. Like baseball was that game, which I think basketball is now. That everyone, from that era, everything kind of revolved around baseball from a player standpoint. And every great player of that 50s, 60s, and 60s era, I believe, other than Koufax, is now gone. Or for the most part is gone. Yeah. Clemente's been dead forever. Robinson's dead. Spahn's dead. I think Spahn's dead. Mantle's dead. DiMaggio's dead. Williams is dead. Mays is now dead. They're all gone, and that's what we grew up on. We didn't grow up watching, but that's what we grew up studying as sports fans. Yeah. And that's why it's weird. We didn't grow up studying Jerry West.
No. No, I think the funny thing is we grew up trying to be them, though. We didn't try and be Willie Mays, but we tried to be Jerry West and Elgin Baylor and Will Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's funny how with basketball you tended, and I'm sure you did the same thing, you went one-on-one with a friend, right? And you said, okay, pick your team, right? And you went back and forth, and Jordan was off limits, right? There was no Jordan because Jordan was so far above everybody else. And you said, pick your historic team. And Chamberlain was in there, right? And maybe Jerry West, probably a little earlier than what I would think. But Dr. J was certainly on that team. And Moses Malone was in that discussion. And so, but not when you were picking a baseball team. Because in the baseball team, baseball was never an individual sport. You didn't pick a baseball team when you went out to play. Because it's not a one-on-one game. You picked the basketball team. So, but I think when we start talking about football, you'll get to Joe Namath, right? Joe Namath will hit me. Lawrence Taylor will hit you.
Lawrence Taylor was the first name that came to mind. Joe Namath won't hit me as much. You're as a Jets fan, I'm a Giants fan. But generationally, Namath doesn't work for me.
Fair enough.
And like what I'm waiting for is the first. I'm not talking about a Kobe where they get into a
No. That's not.
That's a different kind of thing. But inevitably, in the next 10 years, there will be an all-time great player. Like I guess the best that I can think of our generation is Junior Seau.
There'll be look. There's going to be a Magic Johnson. There's going to be a Larry Bird. There's going to be a Dr. J. There's going to be Dr. J. Dr. J is probably going to be the first one. I mean, he's the oldest, right? It'll be of that ilk.
Or it'll be a football player because their bodies give out quicker. A Montana, Marino, a Taylor. I mean, Taylor for different reasons.
Yeah.
But and that will be the precursor for it for us, who in our late 40s are seeing our parents kind of start to go through this. And this is the generation that they grew up with. And this is where they're starting to see them dissipate. I talked to my dad about it today, this morning. And he just said it. He goes, it's just incredibly strange to see all these idols that you have growing up, kind of going by the wayside.
And I think that's the thing, right? Is that you were used to an all-star game and parading out the greats, right? Whoever those greats were. And remember, McGuire met Ted Williams, and it was always, do you remember the smell of the burning bat, right? And you remember that. And then Hank Aaron was the next one. And now it's Willie Mays. And you're right, that generation. Bob Gibson's passed away, right? Bob Gibson passed away.
Mm-hmm.
McCovey was in the 70s.
Well, he died a long time ago.
Passed away. Orlando Cepeda died.
Cepeda's not at that level.
No, he passed away anyway.
Yeah. Musial is gone.
Yep.
Who would be that next great baseball player? Johnny Bench? I mean, Johnny Bench is an all-time great, possibly the greatest catcher of all time. But Johnny Bench doesn't have the allure that a Mays or a Mantle or an Aaron or a Robinson does. Just doesn't.
Okay, so Joe Morgan passed away.
Did he really? I think I forgot that.
How about Reggie Jackson being that next guy?
Probably from a personality standpoint.
Right. No, not from a great player, but from recognizably, he's that guy.
Probably.
Mike Schmidt.
How about
Pete Rose?
I thought of that actually. I don't think Pete Rose has been so far removed. I think it'll be a headline for 2 days and gone. I don't think there'll be a lasting. Schmidt was, Schmidt's probably the greatest third baseman of all time. I think we both agree on that. I think Brett will leave a lot more lasting impression than Schmidt would.
Well, because Brett's got one image and one image only.
Right, but again, but Schmidt wasn't in a personality.
No,
Brett was a personality. No. Brett was phenomenal.
Look, the best player, truth be told, the two best players of that era are probably two of the most underrated players of that era. One is Rod Carew, who is ridiculously underrated compared to what he did. And the other one is Steve Carlton, who is underrated for different reasons. But when Steve Carlton passes away, all people will remember is that he hated the media and the media hated him. Well, when people look at his legacy, I mean, people will talk more about Jim Palmer than they will about Steve Carlton.
Yeah.
But not because Jim Palmer was a better pitcher, because there's no chance.
He was not. Steve Carlton went 27-10 with a team that won 54 games.
It's the greatest. It's the
most ridiculous statistic ever.
Look, there are two great pitching stats. That's number one. And the other one, I've recited this. It's Bob Gibson loses 8 games with a 1.12 ERA.
1.2 ERA.
And kind of like, how? How do you do that? And the reasoning is the most runs that Bob Gibson gave up in a game in the 1960s
I think 3
was 3, and he pitched 13 innings to do it. So, I mean, and he lost, by the way, in 13. So different game, right? Different game. Tommy John you'll hear about because of Tommy John surgery, but you won't hear because Tommy John.
Well, look, it's like John Madden. Why do people know John Madden? Not because he was a coach.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tommy John is a Hall of Very Good. He is not a Hall of Fame. And I love I've met Tommy John. I love Tommy John. He's a Hall of Very Good. By the way, Joe Morgan died in 2020, October 11th, 2020. And you didn't hear enough about him either, and probably because people didn't like him as an announcer.
No. I think it was also we were in the midst of COVID, and there was other things going on.
It's Reggie. The name is Reggie. Reggie.
Yeah, look, from that standpoint, it is Reggie and it is Joe. It is Broadway Joe.
And the equivalent in basketball, who's the equivalent in basketball to Reggie Jackson? Because there's only one name for me.
Dr. J.
No.
Unless you're going to go Jordan.
No, I'm going to go Charles Barkley. Reggie and Charles are the same person.
Yeah, I can see that. Charles was a better basketball player than Reggie was a baseball player.
Yes. But from
a dynamic personality standpoint, you're right.
Those are the guys. So Mark, we don't see you on here. We're just getting video.
Are you
that's odd.
Are you still over?
So why don't you turn on your video, buddy?
I did.
No, it still got black. Maybe you have to.
That's so good.
Wait.
I activated everything. Let me just.
We're gonna remove you and bring you back on when we can see more than just black, unless you're in sympathy for the Boston Celtics and you're posting the black banner. I can't imagine that's the case.
I don't think that's a thing.
Hold on, I'm going to just do it from my phone, and I'm going to disconnect from here.
Back in a second. So anyway, Mark Rubin, superfan, Boston superfan, who is reveling in the last 48 hours. I sent Mark a congratulatory text when the Celtics won, and I got 40 texts approximately in the next 20 minutes.
I'm impressed you stayed up to watch the end of the game.
I watched every finals game. There it is. I watched more playoff basketball this year than I have ever in a season. It was great. All right. Mark is showing off his belly, which means we're not going to put him on until he sits down because that's not happening.
Jesus Christ.
All right, Mark. Sit down, my friend. Sit down. We got the congratulations.
Congratulations, buddy.
It almost happened, right? What we said in preseason when we had you on, we said the one thing that would trip up the Boston Celtics was health to their big men. And it almost happened.
Well, thank God that Al Horford is drinking from the fountain of youth. Because
by the way, we had a discussion about Al Horford this morning. I still don't buy it. Sean sees him as a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer.
I don't see it.
How are you asking the guy who just won him a championship that he's not a Hall of Famer? Mark would put Peyton Pritchard in the Hall of Fame today.
By the way,
is Robert Williams making it too?
No. By the way, the half-court bomb by Pritchard, clear traveling. But let's not.
Absolutely.
He took like 4.5 steps. In any event,
it's the NBA.
It is the NBA.
By the way, do you know this? Last year, Peyton Pritchard wanted a trade. And he went into Brad Stevens and said, I don't know my role on this team, and I'm not good enough to play on this team, so please trade me. So instead, he re-signs him to an extension and then says, your role is in the last 3 seconds of every half to just go out half court.
Well, and then remember they got rid of Smart, and so he became the first guard off the bench.
Yeah, no. Your first guard off the bench. I mean, look.
White.
Your first guard off the bench is
White starts.
Right. So you got Holiday,
Right.
White, and Brown. So your first guard off the bench is moving Brown back to the shooting guard.
Yeah.
And
And Tatum brings the ball up a lot too.
Don't tell me that Peyton Pritchard played a major role in this team, because he didn't.
Well, I guess
he was a nice rotational player.
Yeah, exactly. And he's getting paid well for it. He's found his niche. He's a hard worker. He's a gym rat, so you can't complain. This maybe all championship teams are a case study in good management. But if you look at all of the moves that Brad Stevens made,
was brilliant.
We talked about that.
Really.
Start with Derek White last year for Josh Richardson.
Sean's favorite move of possibly the last 5 years.
And I like Josh Richardson. I think he's a great player.
I said it when it happened.
That was Sean's favorite move, and I hate giving Sean credit for things. That was Sean's favorite basketball move that I can remember.
Yeah.
The day the trade was made.
But perhaps the unsung hero for the Celtics?
O'Shea Brissett.
No. Joe Cronin, the GM of the Trailblazers, who said to Drew Holiday, I know you don't want to be here. Which teams do you want me to try to make a deal with?
Yeah.
And the Celtics, of course, wanted him. And so, as Joel Embiid said, the Bucks were a major contributor to the Celtics title.
So two things.
Giannis said it too. Giannis said, did they literally give him a championship?
So two things. First of all, I predicted that trade too. Spot on. 100% got that one right. Number two, thank God that Derek White is extension eligible, because after the amount of dental work that man is going to need,
probably.
Seth, did you see
two root canals and a crown?
Is that what he got? That was it.
I'm guessing. He's definitely going to need a crown on the tip front tooth, and apparently he dislodged 2 others, so that's probably going to be a root canal.
But congratulate, he came right back. Like I was like, his face bounced off the ground.
Well, yeah, because somebody fell on the back of his head and just mushed it into the floor.
It was not so good.
What was so satisfying about this team, and Sean, you played my frequent psychiatrist throughout the season, when I admittedly expressed concerns about Missoula, and I, on numerous occasions, said that he could be our weak link and cost us. But he got better as the season got on. He saw this issue, let him figure it out, and he started having them play. Yeah, we still led the league or second in the league in threes taken. But they varied the offense, and whenever they needed to put the hammer down defensively, they were able to do that. Hence a title.
Your offense didn't win you a championship. Your
defense, your perimeter defense did.
Yeah, agreed. Well, we have the best backcourt. True or false? Best defensive backcourt in modern NBA history.
No.
Who's better?
I'd have to think about it.
Defensive backcourt?
Yeah. Drew Holiday and Derek White, they're awesome.
I'd have to think about that.
Yeah,
that's not like Magic Johnson.
Magic couldn't play defense worth a lick. I mean, I would think I would go more with Isaiah.
Walt Frazier and Earl Monroe.
Monroe
didn't play defense.
Not Monroe. It would be Barnett because
Gus Williams and Dennis Johnson.
Yep. Okay, that's a good one. Although was Gus, I can't remember Gus Williams.
By the way,
that's the Bullets. That's the Supersonics in '70.
By the way, Seth, give me credit for pulling the Supersonics.
That is impressive. You can also go Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney.
Oh,
Toney wasn't a great defender in any event.
He was pretty good.
Danny Ainge and Dennis Johnson. I'll give you your own.
Yeah, true. Anyway, you're right about the defense, and I want you both to know that I logged an average of 2,000 steps per playoff game.
That's not surprising. How's the carpet looking? Is there a hole in between?
The carpet's fine. And thank God this series ended in 5, because I'm not sure that I was going to make it through a 7-game series.
No. Your wife was not going to make it through, or you were not going to make it through with her.
I think the copper is you were not going to make it through with your wife.
I think
it may not have been your wife after Game 5.
And I will tell you more to the point. Every playoff run encompasses some adversity, right? And every playoff run also encompasses some luck, right? We can establish that there is luck involved in every single run. Okay. Did the Celtics get lucky this year? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Their whole Eastern Conference run.
Every good team was knocked out with injury. I've never seen so many injuries in a playoff.
Yeah. No,
I think my point is, and I'm the first one to say, hey, Celtics, you didn't do a great job. You don't take that. It's a championship. It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't. Now that that's over, it doesn't matter. You won a championship. There's no asterisk here or asterisk there or
no.
Even the bubble.
Nobody cares.
I hate hearing
in front of you.
I hate hearing how the Lakers won in a bubble because to me, that shorts what they did.
Agreed.
They won. They won what was in front of them, and the Celtics are geared up. I've read a lot how the Celtics are geared up for a potential dynasty, and they are if they can afford it. And
there was an interesting article in the Boston Globe just last week where Grossbeck, the owner, Wick Grossbeck, who I didn't know, by the way, his dad is one of the co-founders of Cablevision, Irving Grossbeck. So dad's a billionaire.
So the Knicks got the short end of the stick on that one.
Exactly. But he said to his partners when they bought the team for $700 million around 2005-ish, if I recall, profitability is not our concern. It's parades. So they will be taxed up the wazoo because of their exceeding the second apron, and then it goes up and up the more you exceed it year after year. But we are justifiably already the favorites for next year. The only two people who are going to be free agents after now are Luke Cornett and somebody else on the bench. And so the question for Stevens is, given the fact that Al Horford is probably done after next season, can you improve at the backup center position?
Okay, so the first thing that we have to discuss is that the tax and the aprons don't only apply to money, right?
Yes.
There are other repercussions that come. That's the reason these aprons occur, right? You cannot trade a pick. Money coming in is money coming out.
Yep.
Once you get, and it's not even next year, it's really the year after that you're talking about with Derek White's extension. Next year, you are definitely you play in the East. And
you're the overwhelming Eastern Conference.
You're
the overwhelming favorite for the.
No,
because I don't think with as many teams as there are in the West that are very good, it's hard to.
Right, you're the overwhelming Eastern favorite. It's the year after.
Yeah.
It's how can you, if you lose Al Horford, if you get a Kristaps Porzingis injury, if there's a Jason
Tatum and
Agreed.
Brown, is Brown playing in the Olympics or just Tatum?
No, just Tatum and Holiday.
If one of them gets hurt, it's not as easy to bring in a replacement anymore. It's not as easy to make trades.
No, this is all
the rub. The rub is not the money. Who cares about the money?
Yeah, no,
Jacob would pay a Google $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, he paid a Google and whatever the number I said. Did I really say he paid a Google?
He did.
He paid a gazillion, and he has 4 championships, 5 championships.
And he'd do it again.
Absolutely.
He would do it now if he could.
Right.
I mean, that team is done.
The issue is not that. The issue is the restrictions that come along with it, including dropping your draft pick 10 spots if you're 3 years in a row in the apron, in the second apron. So it's how you replenish that team going forward. But to your credit, and I will be quiet in a second, to your credit, you won a championship. And flags fly forever, and you can suck next year, and guess what? You won a championship. Like I don't
And we were the
put that
best-
in my bucket.
And we were the best team from start to finish.
You were.
Not even close.
You were.
So, but in 2
Sure.
years, in 2 years, Drew Holiday, who's 34 right now, he might retire.
That's
In
right.
Horford is probably one more year left. So 1 year at a time. But that's why Stevens gets paid the big bucks to be looking around the corner, and I'm sure he's thinking, okay, can we improve upon? Can we go beyond Luke Cornett, who's a good serviceable backup, but didn't play at all in the playoffs?
Knowing Stevens, he's probably in the Boston office right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Researching.
they're all in Miami apparently.
I
Partying
will tell you
until the
one
parade.
thing. I will tell you one thing that I was dead wrong on. I said they needed to break up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Well, you and a lot of other people said that.
I know, but I could take the wins and the losses. And look, Jaylen Brown's been my favorite player since he's come into the league. Derek White was my favorite trade ever for what you guys gave up for him.
Well, to be fair, no, Jaylen Brown was your favorite player in the league at $28 million.
No. That was my favorite contract. He's still my favorite player.
Is he still your favorite player?
Yeah. He was
I
still
just thought he was your favorite
player.
contract.
He does because he's still underrated. I don't care. He's still underrated. He's the best. Look, Jason Kidd got it right. He's the best player on that team. It's not Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum may be the most emotional player on that team because I don't know anybody that I've seen cry more after winning a championship than Jason Tatum.
Well,
maybe Michael Jordan.
I would refine it by saying that Brown is a better two-way player.
Yes.
Tatum is probably the better offensive player.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as a two-way, both ends of the court player, yeah, it's Brown.
You and Seth both know that I value the defense as much, if not more, than the offense. Because
You do.
get offense.
5 minutes ago, you just said we won the title because of the defense, which is a true statement.
Right, exactly. You can get offense from Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You can't teach Carmelo Anthony defense.
So
unless he's on the Olympics.
I will be at the parade on Friday.
No surprise. What time will you be getting there? That's my big question. Because
8:30 in the morning.
What time does it start?
11.
Wait, what time are you getting there?
8:30 in the morning.
You might want to get there earlier. From the last parade that they had, where I was living on Causeway, there were people that were lining up at 7.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. But anyway, it's a fairly big route. We'll just all we need to do is see a few of the duck boats go by. Anyway,
your son's coming in for the
one of them is joining me.
Excellent.
So
you know Natalie's not making that trip for the parade.
She is not. She is not. And but it was so much fun because, as you know, I would be texting you, Seth, Sean, and I would be texting a half a dozen other people. If I swear to God, if I got rid of all these text chains, I would probably pick up a ton of space on my iPhone.
I think you'll be fine. I think you're doing okay. Don't worry.
Exactly.
But now you get to talk about next year. We'll have you on at the beginning of the football season, where I can finally say good luck in last place and be happy.
And you'll get no argument from me. I think the Patriots are headed in the right direction, but they won 4 games last year. Maybe they win 5. If they're lucky, they win 6.
To be fair, there's only one direction they probably could go up.
Yeah, they're going to lose if Rodgers stays healthy. They're going to probably go. How many? There's 4 teams in the AFC, so they're going to go 1-5.
Seems about right.
They're going to go 1-5.
They'll beat the Jets because they always beat the Jets one of those games,
or Buffalo. But if Rodgers stays healthy, but it's interesting. Gross, if you draw comparisons, when Ainge suddenly said, "I'm done," and Grossbeck goes to Brad immediately and says, "Do you want to take over and run the team?" And he got Stevens at and he said, I really think, I really had a good feel that this would be a really good person to replace Ainge. And Kraft said he's always had a good feeling about Mayo. And so they have the quarterback of the future. I suspect he isn't going to play much this year, which is a good thing. And I think, hopefully in 3 or 4 years, the Patriots will be back in the hunt. The team for which, and I'll use your show as my rallying cry to call for a boycott of Fenway Park for at least one game to keep the stadium empty, because John Henry, in an interview with Forbes or the Financial Times a couple of weeks ago, said something to the effect, there's no point in spending big on free agents because you only have a 1 in 30 chance of winning.
The Red Sox have become a money-making machine. They're not
exactly. And the thing is, the Red Sox are because of Cora, they're getting the very most out of their talent. And had they invested in 1 or 2 free agents, Jordan Montgomery, for example, even though he's not tearing it up, they could be in second place. They could maybe be in the running for the second wild card.
Does John Henry use that logic with Liverpool, where it's only 1 in 20, or the European Championship, where it's like 1 in 100,
or investing $3 billion in the Saudi golf thing?
Yeah. Before we go, let's congratulate Marcus Smart for entering a group with Anderson Varejao, Elgin Baylor, Don Mattingly, Adrian Dantley, right? I could go on and on and on about guys that played through the string and then got to the last year.
The year before.
And then left the year before. And we could have Buck Showalter in 16 times.
How'd you like to be Ime Udoka right now?
And Ime Udoka, but Ime Udoka cost his own.
He did it to himself.
That's right. He shot himself.
And that was 2 years ago. That wasn't last year. These are just guys that left the year before.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I give my son credit. He said 2 years ago that the Celtics would never win a title with Marcus Smart as their starting point guard.
Oh, it's the best comparison is Adrian Dantley, right? Where you are a guy that wants a bigger role on the team, and the team is not built for you to have a bigger role. And the only way for you to win, and they said this numerous times on the telecast, was everybody had to have their ego checked at the door. And the only guy that did not have his ego ever checked at the door was Marcus Smart. And
I wouldn't call him an egomaniac, but
I don't think so.
And he was a good teammate and a hell of a defender, of course, Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago. But he just didn't have the point guard skills, and I think it was addition by subtraction, and that was another brilliant trade. But you know what I keep thinking about? Maybe you can answer this. Remember, the original deal was that Brogdon was going to go to the Clippers.
Yep.
And Smart was going to go to Smart wasn't involved in the trade. And then the deal fell apart. And then the deal fell apart, and then they threw Smart in.
Yep.
And then Brogdon was part of the Drew Holiday deal subsequently.
Yep.
So crazy how things work out.
Mark, it was great seeing you again. We'll talk
Bask in it and enjoy the parade, buddy.
Enjoy the parade, my friend. See you. All right, we got 5 minutes left. So a couple of things, real quick hits. Cameron Brink suffers a torn ACL.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Hockey trades are happening before the end of the Stanley Cup. We have
what is that?
Pierre-Luc Dubois, who had one of the worst years of a guy that signed an 8-year contract for $8.5 million, gets signed 1 year after he does it. And, if the Pistons are hiring, I'm in. I'm so in. I'm in for 6 months, Seth. And then I can get fired.
$55 million buyout. Wild.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Monty Williams, for those who signs the richest coaching contract in the history of NBA.
At the time.
He gets fired 1 year later.
And to be fair, Tom Gores said to Trajan Langdon, you will have complete control and you can do whatever you want with the coaching staff. So give him a little bit of credit, right? Where he didn't say money is the problem. Money is obviously not the problem if you're firing the coach with that much. But my Lord, I'll do it. I'll be fine. I don't need 55 million. I don't even need 5 million. I'll do it for $1 million. I'm good. I'm really good. Okay. And the last thing, and then we can go into the last 5. You will see signings like this taking place. Pascal Siakam, because you are permitted after the end of the NBA Finals, you got right away, teams can start talking to their players. So you're going to see maybe OG Anunoby sign an extension, hopefully, in my opinion. Hopefully. You'll see you already saw Pascal Siakam signing an extension. You will see teams that sign extensions. This doesn't mean that free agency is open. That opens after the draft for teams that are not signing their own guys. By the way, Bronny, if your only 2 workouts are for Phoenix and for the Lakers, I wish you luck. I do, because so that means you are not Kobe. You don't get to choose. This is what the draft is all about. You don't get to choose. Okay, and for my last 5, Travis Kelce saying the Super Bowl ring era makes it even more exclusive. Yeah, that's bullshit. That's all I want to say. I will tell you, Pawn Stars will know if it's true or if it's a real ring. If nothing else, that's going to be corrected on any fake ring. So it'll be true. Okay, Seth, last 5. Go ahead.
No, I really don't have too much. I don't have too much for today.
All right. Sounds good. For Seth Kamens, I'm Sean Palmer. He's going to go put on some sunscreen. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one, everybody. See ya.
Bye.